All right, so just a few months into the Trump presidency, US President Donald Trump has introduced a wave of tariffs throughout the entire world, a global 10% tariff, and much higher rates for many other countries, including China, Vietnam, and many others. So a lot of people are probably wondering what's going on. Pretty crazy stuff to happen. Happy Liberation Day. We are now dealing with the aftermath of yesterday's announcement, and the US market has really sold off. The S&P 500 down around 5% yesterday, well, today rather, with Apple down 9%, Nvidia down almost 8%, Meta down 9%. Really just chaos all around, and we are not sure what's going to happen next as a result of these tariffs, so that remains to be seen. For those wondering, a tariff is a duty imposed by the government of a country or customs territory. Besides being a source of revenue, import duties can also be a form of regulation, a foreign trade policy that burden foreign products to encourage, safeguard domestic industry. I think the plan here is for the United States to start, regaining their manufacturing. A lot of that over the past 40 years has been, of course, outsourced to other countries. One potential problem with this is that costs for US labor is much, much, much higher, of course, than it is throughout the world. And if these tariffs persist and we begin manufacturing here, the worry there is that the price of all these goods will increase. Furthermore, goods that are imported into the United States will face tariffs, which will likely be passed on to the consumer, which seems to be everyone's favorite thing to do, just make us pay for it. So, what do we do now to prepare? Really, is hard to say. These tariffs could be gone in a matter of weeks to months. They may just be a negotiating tool to rattle the markets. They could be something that stays for a while. We're just going to have to see. Few things I think are important right now, just with all the uncertainty. It's important to, you have a job, keep it. Right now, there's a lot of rumors of recession. There are lots of layoffs happening right now. This could continue. Uncertainty is the word of the year. The Fed thinks that this might be transitory inflation, but we've heard that before, and we know how that worked out. I don't believe that for a second, and neither should you. So if you have a job, I recommend keeping it. For now, stay put unless something really nice comes along, or if you really are unhappy at your job. Another thing I would do, just be pretty cash heavy. You don't have to sell any investments, but I would recommend being cash heavy enough so that you wouldn't have to sell any investments you might have, whether that's Bitcoin, whether that's stocks. In the event of you being laid off, it's good to have a cushion. Not only is cash good for sort of an emergency fund for that purpose, but if we see this sell off continue, it'll be great to have some dry powder to throw into the market in your favorite equities, or in my case, I really like Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin will really stand out here. We haven't seen it much act as a risk off play. However, as far as tariffs go, Bitcoin is pretty minimally affected. So there is that. The world might just start searching for some value, some way to store their value rather, outside of the United States. A lot of US investors will use, typically, historically, would use something like an S&P 500 index fund, total market fund, NASDAQ, things like that. But the S&P just doesn't seem to be as safe as it as we are used to. Things are just happening so quickly, and it's hard to say what's going to happen. Trump is definitely a bit of a wild card, and he could flip flop and change his mind on this. But I think a big reason for the sell off is while people were expecting tariffs, they did not expect them to be as high as they were when he pulled out that little chart, which is it's almost like a meme. The simulation's confirmed, guys. That was just really didn't expect that, but here we are. And just a few months into the presidency, as I've said, so we are in for a ride. Buckle up. What's going to happen? We don't know. Is this just some short term pain, as they say, for a cleanse that will help over the long term by making the country more prosperous? That really remains to be seen. And markets just don't know what to do right now. People don't know how to price goods. People don't know what's going to happen. What happens if all these companies start investing into manufacturing inside of the United States just for these tariffs to be rolled back? Of course, Trump will probably not be president after 2028, beginning of 2029, although although anything is possible at this point, I really wouldn't put anything off completely just given the insanity we've seen. So with these tariffs in mind, I would again just stay pretty heavy in cash. I am still DCAing a little bit, but I am saving up my cash. We did just purchase a house and put a big down payment down right as this is happening. So a lot of my cash was in that down payment. So gonna really restore my cash for emergency purposes, of course, and to possibly take advantage of anything, any opportunities in the market. Also, if something happens with my job, it'll be good to have money. And again, at this point, uncertainty is the name of the game right now. No one really knows. Things are a lot different than they were 6 months ago. And it just seems like people believe that they don't know what's going to happen. Of course, that's true, but with these tariffs, it really throws a wrench in pretty much everything. I mean, it's been a while since something like this has happened, so I prepare by stacking cash. I would recommend having an allocation to Bitcoin just because it's a little resistant to this type of thing, and honestly, stocks have gone down more than Bitcoin over this last day. Of course, that could change, but that's my input on the tariffs. I would recommend just being very light-footed and adaptable to this environment because things are just changing very quickly. So that's my input. If you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe, like the video, share the video, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks.